of art being bastardized. We have internet comedian Mark Phillips, who recently made comments talking about sketch comedy and the transition between traditional media and how it pretty much can only exist now on the internet because of the speed of it and all of that kind of stuff. So let's see. It's been a while since we talked about the comedy world, I would say. But these were interesting comments all the same. This says RDCWorld's Mark Phillips says sketch comedy is better suited for the internet. That's the show now. Mark Phillips has some strong opinions on where sketch comedy stands today. The RDC World comedian recently appeared on the You Should Know podcast to give some insight on sketch comedy shows, saying that they cannot exist in today's world. When pitching his ideas to Hollywood executives, he noticed that nobody in the industry wanted to take a risk and make a whole new idea. Phillips said that execs often suggested he do a sketch show. If I write a comedy idea, a sketch show, they'll give it to me in like 10 minutes, Phillips said at around the hour and 9-minute mark. They'll be like, what about a sketch show? And I'm like, I don't want to do a sketch show. Phillips elaborated, explaining that sketch shows are better suited for online platforms like TikTok because of their faster pace. People don't understand what we need a sketch show for when we can make sketches on the internet. That's the show now. If you make a sketch show, we got to go get a Hollywood production. You take a whole year, and whatever we're about to make that's supposed to be relatable is gone within a year because it got to take all that time to come out. He added, that's why Saturday Night Live doesn't connect with the youth. The youth like speed. They like relevancy. So we'll go ahead and play a clip of Phillips's point here. Let me see. Okay, so we should be good here. So yeah, so this is Mark Phillips. He's big on like TikTok, Instagram with his sketches and whatnot, talking about how sketch comedy no longer can exist. Like, you know, it has to be on the internet now. It's all migrated to the internet.
Cannot exist in today's world, in my opinion. Like, they're not. Look at the movie industry. Like, the movie industry in itself is struggling for new ideas. That's why they always struggle, because nobody wants to take a risk and make a whole new idea. When you try a whole new original idea and somebody say, hey, that I ain't feeling it, you just broke. Like, no cap. Get fired. Whole room, yo, get out of here. You fired. And I'm like, damn. Like,
you're like, bro, I thought it was a great film.
Exactly. Like, they're like, when I was going through pitch runs, like pitching my idea, like, it was so many of the studios that was like, oh, we love that idea, but not gonna lie, we ain't trying. It's too expensive. And I'm like, all right, bro. Like, all right, bro. But if I write a comedy idea, like a skit show, they'll give it to me in like that 10 minutes.
Yeah, really.
They'd be like, what about a sketch show? I'm like, no, I don't want no sketch show. Like, people don't understand what we need a sketch show for, and we can make sketches on the internet. That's the show now. If you make a sketch show, we gotta go get a Hollywood production. You take a whole year, and whatever we about to make that's supposed to be relatable is gone within a year, because it got to take all that time to come out. Because that's why Saturday Night Live doesn't like connect with the youth,
right?
Because the youth like speed. They like to just be like, let me stop giving you all the secrets, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? They like speed. You know what I'm saying? They like relevancy and all that type of stuff. That's why I like TikTokers. You know, they drop something and like people be like, oh, that's funny as hell, and it do be funny as hell,
and it's right then too. If they're not having to wait months to just experience that thing that happened months ago.
And then on Hollywood, you need a structure too. So you like, all right, what's the structure of the sketch show, bro? Nobody give a damn about no structure. No,
just hit record,
right? And then you got to give 3 big ass Hollywood sketches, and like you have to do that every episode. And what if you just not feeling one of them sketches that episode? It's like on the internet, we could put out what we feel like. Oh, we like that, even if it doesn't perform as well as we wanted to do. Like, we wanted to do it, so we put that out.
I think those are pretty interesting comments. So let's see. Where did I leave off here? Phillips elaborated. Okay, I read that part. To Phillips's point, SNL recently made a splash making fun of TikTok influencers. That was essentially just TikTok on your TV screen, except it likely garnered more views on social media platforms than it did on TV. When it comes to addressing viral moments, RDC World produces comedic content nearly as quickly as the news cycle. Phillips and his team recently spoofed the moment Dwayne Wade received his Miami Heat statue last month, sparking a flood of internet jokes about how little the monument resembles the retired NBA star. So y'all can click on that to watch that sketch if you want. We'll go ahead and bypass that. But what do you think about what Phillips had to say about the state of sketch comedy and how you can't really do it because of, all of these other factors and people not wanting to take risks and all of that good stuff?
I mean, again, bro, I think this speaks to the out of touchness that Hollywood currently has right now. I mean, they got all the money in the world, all the resources, and they could come out with viral sketches if they wanted to, with better production or whatever, just as fast. But they still have to do these grandiose productions. I guess it's money, syndications or whatever, however they have to gear this thing together. But the model of whatever Hollywood runs itself off of, it's a dying off one with the speed of social media. So, I mean, I agree with Sir Phillips here, man. He's a funny dude, by the way, man. And so if he did have an idea, if I was in Hollywood and this guy and his team had an idea for something, I'm putting my money behind it. Like, I'm not going to limit him to sketch comedy or his team, because they have the pulse of the people right now. All the young kids loved him and his crew. And so if they came out with something akin to what we were talking about with Logic, just his people that mess with him enough would just give it a look-see. So it'll be worth the capital. But again, I don't know what kind of world Hollywood lives in. They're in this weird bubble where they are just doing rinse and repeat. They felt like this franchise worked, or this movie where the parents swapped with the child worked last time, so let's come out with a new parent swap movie, or hey, this franchise in the early 80s, it blew up with its initial and its sequel. Hey, let's come out with a revamp one, a reboot, but this time the main character is a black lady. You know what I'm saying? And she has a trans daughter. And it's like, man, nobody wants to see any of this, man. We want original ideas. But, Mark said, hey, man, they feel as though that these original ideas are too much of a risk. So that explains why they keep falling into these same channels of, let's make a reboot. Let's just do this, or let's just recycle this old thing that already happened. And a variety show, a sketch comedy show has already happened, and there's really nothing wrong with that. But that's not the type of humor that these guys do. And they do up-to-date humor. That's what everybody that's popping right now on the internet comedy-wise. They're just making fun of relevant situations right now. There's a few people that just make fun of normal, everyday situations. But again, like he said, man, the way that these guys do it, I mean, they're running their own studio, if they will. They're making new skits every day or 2-3 times a week, So to mess with that flow, to try to make them into some commercialized cookie cut version of what they do, it'd be corny as hell. So yeah, man. So I agree with Sir Phillips here, man. Hollywood need to get with it if they want to keep the young people interested. But knowing them, bro, that's what I'm saying. I really feel like Hollywood, they just have their own thing, and you need to conform to what they're doing, as crazy as that sounds. And they got a formula, they got a recipe, and they want to stick to it, apparently. But if they want to capture these young people, they might want to get with the new wave of how things are getting put out, and that's immediately, basically direct to consumer. But what are your thoughts, sir, on Sir Phillips basically saying that, hey, man, the Hollywood game, or however they want to produce stuff, is not the way to go. The best way to do it is through social media. What are your thoughts, man?
I think he is. I think he's speaking Spanish to a program that only understands English. Like, I think he's speaking a language that, like, it's like trying to run trying to do ones and zeros on a machine that understands HTML. It's like it's not going to understand the code. Like, he's speaking a different language. the kind of comedy that he does isn't the kind of comedy that lends itself to being good on TV.
It doesn't.
So I feel like they're both speaking two different languages. Like I grew up on sketch comedy and stand-up comedy. Sketch comedy and stand-up comedy work on television because it's more long form. That short form stuff doesn't work on television because you're going to need to occupy this 30 minutes or this hour. And these bits that these internet comedians be doing, I can't see myself sitting down to watch that for 30 minutes to an hour. I just can't. So I feel like he can say that, but at the end of the day, we're talking platforms that are speaking literally two different languages. You know, it would literally be like me trying to put the CPU of a PC into a Mac. It's just literally there's a lack of compatibility. It's not going to work. Like we're talking about two completely different operating systems. Like one is iOS and the other is Android. The two cannot communicate with one another. So I am not surprised to hear him say that, you know, Hollywood studios don't want to do this or that based on his ideas, because it does not work for the type of comedy that he does. Me personally, I prefer sketch and you I would imagine if he tried to do a stand-up special, it probably wouldn't be that funny. That is my opinion, but you know, I'll you know, be wrong on that if that's the case. But I don't see him doing a stand-up special where he's just giving jokes and punchlines for 50 minutes. That's not the kind of stuff he does. He does that TikTok, Instagram type. Like everything that you described is right on the money with the kind of stuff that he does. These skits, and I see it all the time on Instagram. These comedy skits. I got, you know, friends of mine, they be showing me stuff and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny, but it's just not my cup of tea personally. It's just not. But I won't take anything away from what he does because clearly it resonates with a lot of people who are more into consuming stuff on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. But he is right on one front. You know, Hollywood, if you will, not taking risks, you know, rehashing everything is a remake or a sequel or something that's already been done. There's a reason for that. And the reason for that is because comedy is too risky of a proposition because of the fear, quite frankly, that whoever's comedy you invest in might offend people. See, these studios, I said this before when we talked about that Heinz ad, the ketchup ad, that was like, you know, people were complaining about it being racist. We are 4 years into corporate America caring about not offending people who aren't white. And in lieu of corporate America only recently caring about not offending people who are not white, there has been a swift overreaction to how art can toe the line of being artful, but also not being offensive. So what happens in the process is comedy ends up being affected by this, because now comedy that was traditionally considered to be comedy is now offensive. And you can't offend people. It's too risky to offend people. So we're going to have to pass on your idea because we don't want to offend anybody. So a lot of these institutions that used to take gambles and green light projects that were comedic don't do it anymore because they don't know if that comedy is going to offend people. And they also want to know that despite it being neutered and being dry and not offending people, it'll also make money. And if you can't give them the perfect formula for being able to make money, but also not being offensive, they're not going to take the gamble. So where we are with comedy is stuff isn't being made anymore because studios and executives in Hollywood in general has decided that it's too risky a proposition because they don't want to run the risk of a faux pas or offending people or having to issue apologies because they offended this group of people because of this skit or this sketch or this thing that this comedian said. Because if a comedian has a show on Comedy Central and there's a bit on the show that offended women, for example, or black people, Comedy Central is going to have to suspend that person, cancel the show, and formally issue an apology saying that they're going to pledge to do better in the future and that they didn't mean to offend this group of people. And no one wants to go through that PR. It's annoying. So instead they decide to play it safe, and they say we'll just do remakes all day. As much as I love Chappelle's Show, I think Chappelle's Show is the greatest sketch comedy show ever made. For the 2 seasons that it was on, it was ahead of its time in terms of a lot of stuff that people talk about to this day. And that show came out 20 years ago. It would not get made today. It wouldn't. Clayton Bigsby would be too offensive. The racial draft would be too offensive.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I don't know when Key and Peele ended, but
that was like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
This is radically different. Anything that happened before 2020 would not be made today.
Yeah, that's fair.
It wouldn't. So Clayton Bigsby, the racial draft, what was some of the other stuff he did? Black Bush. All of that stuff that, in my opinion, was hilarious and thought-provoking simultaneously that he did on that show, it's not getting made today. It's not, because someone somewhere is going to get offended. The original Kings of Comedy, that's not getting made today.
Oh no,
it's not. Louis C.K. show from the early 2000 teens, I think. None of this stuff is being made today, unless you're financing it yourself. But if you're depending on Hollywood backing and financing to get this stuff made, they're going to tell you no. It's too risky. It's not getting made. So until America figures out the right balance for what constitutes perceptively offensive content and what constitutes art and comedy, we'll be in this weird limbo where nothing's getting made, and it's just remake after remake with no originality. And the next remake is worse than the one that came before it. Everything now is worse than its predecessor. Everything is worse now. Everything is worse. So good luck to all y'all comedians out there. Comedians, to me, are in the same boat as true hip-hop artists. They're in the same boat. They're trying to figure out how to navigate the landscape in an industry that has determined that what they do no longer has a place. It sucks for some of these comedians, man. And a comic who has been trained to be a stand-up comic can't start doing internet skits. Just like Logic can't start doing Playboy Cardi rap. You know, it's a square peg in a round hole. It don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel for these guys, man. But I think that this is a greater referendum on these various industries. In my opinion, there needs to be a change. If that change will come, I don't think so. I think we are fully entrenched in SJW. Everything's offensive. Be sensitive. We're fully entrenched in that world where there is literally no line of demarcation between art and suggestive content. It's all been conflated. All of it now is the same thing. And art is suffering in the process, in my opinion. So yeah, if you're not one of these tweens who can do this internet skit stuff, you might want to figure out a plan B.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, man. So, you know, we'll see what happens, how these guys do things. I mean, these guys make so much money off of endorsements, little side things that they do. I'm pretty sure their channels do pretty damn well. So I think they do good enough to make their own thing, man. And I would like to see these guys make their own movie or make whatever they are trying to pitch to these studios.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see these guys try to make it all off the muscle and make a direct to consumer kind of thing, because they know the people's gonna be buying it hook, line, and sinker, and they'll eat it up. And so yeah, man, I really think that these guys shouldn't be pitching this stuff because they clearly don't see the value in these young men. I mean, if I had the money, I'll invest in it because everything that they put out goes viral. And there's a couple of TikTok people out there that, you know, people are dying to see in something, and then they don't get a call, you know. So it was one dude I saw, he in some type of Tubi movie or whatever. It's like, yeah, man, people are gonna watch it just because he's in it. So yeah, man. And if you've seen the quality of Tubi movies, y'all, so y'all can drop something on Tubi. It can be ironically cringe. It can be shot like that. You know what I'm saying? But y'all still got y'all idea out there. And so with y'all limited budget, y'all limited everything, y'all can still pull it off. So I would ask y'all to do that with that, or anybody else out there. Honestly, man, the direct-to-consumer game has gotten a lot more easier. I mean, if you've seen some of those Tubi movies, and it's like some of the stuff, like you can actually see like the cameraman like in reflection of mirrors and other things. He's just holding up an iPhone. Some people shooting them Tubi movies on iPhones. So ain't no big studio, ain't no big budget. You just gotta have a grind and a know-how and put your work in. So yeah, man. So good luck, Mr. Phillips and the RDC crew. I would like to see these young men make it without you know, sacrificing anything as far as creativity or anything else like Chappelle had to deal with. And yeah, man, y'all channels are already popping. I would just try to do something off that and direct to consumer, man. See how that goes.
Yeah, I feel for all creatives. That's who I feel for. I feel for every creative who's trying to carve a niche for themselves, and they're having to figure out how to navigate what is an increasingly tricky landscape for all creatives. I feel for them. I really do. And, you know, I can sit up here all day and talk about my personal brand of comedy and what I like. But at the end of the day, you're working hard and you have a niche and you're good at it. Who am I to take that away from you? So internet skit comedy may not be my thing, but I want all of these people to do well and succeed. They seek out Hollywood studios because the security of their infrastructure and resources is something that is very appetizing even now, still. Because they've got the money, the resources, they've got the capital, they've got the investors, they've got the directors and producers and engineers, they've got that infrastructure that can elevate your art and take it to the next level. But what you have to concede possibly by going that route is the integrity of your art. Because what's going to happen is Hollywood and these studios, they're going to neuter what you're doing. They're going to neuter it. They're going to neuter it. They're going to neuter it because they would rather play it safe because of the climate that we live in. And that's what's so unfortunate. And art, in my opinion, has really been a casualty in this ongoing conflict between, like, you know, perceptively suggestive content and material and ideas and actual offensiveness. And art has really suffered as a result. It's unfortunate. It really is. But I feel for all these creatives.
Yeah, and that's a good point. They so worried about being offensive about all this other stuff, but they just throw all this sex stuff in your face. It's a sex scene in every damn thing. And they don't care about that. That's not offending nobody, right?
No, because that's not identity. That's not identity politics. That's why. Yeah. They'll give you all of the boobies and they'll give you all of the boobies and booties and now male full frontal nudity. Like, I see more male full frontal nudity in movies now than I've ever seen. Ever. Which in my opinion is clearly a retaliation towards the Me Too era. Clearly. I don't give a damn what anybody says. That is Hollywood and these filmmakers saying women were oppressed for so long, dealing with these circumstances of having to be nude and show everything. We're gonna make y'all men do it now too. I don't care what anyone says. That's the reason why you're seeing that more. It's in direct response to the Me Too era, and which takes me back to my central point. Everything you're seeing now on TV and streaming is some form of identity, something.
Yes, contrived. Something.
Yeah. It just makes something that's good, but you have to have the identity message while not being offensive, but still being funny. It ain't gonna work. And the last thing that I'm gonna say, and I'm done with this one, and I've said this before, even my own sensibilities can be offended, but I'm going to accept that as, you know, I'm chalking it up to the game. And
Right.
I used to hate, I brought her up before, but Lisa Lampanelli, I can't stand her comedy. I can't stand it. Her whole routine when she was in her heyday, and you can throw that other chick in there too, Amy Schumer. I used to watch their stand-up specials. Pretty much their whole bit is, I'm an overweight white woman, so I'm gonna date black men because black men will take me because the white men won't because I'm overweight. But you know, I'm still white, so let me date these black men because they'll take me. That was their whole shtick.
Yeah.
As a black guy, I didn't like that. I'm not a fan of that kind of joke. But am I gonna call up to Comedy Central and bitch and complain on Twitter talking about get rid of? No, that's her brand of comedy. It is what it's meant to do. It's meant to invoke these kinds of observations. But in this era of all of this identity BS, which started literally 4 years ago, you know, everything has to be tiptoeing and delicate, and you know, and art suffers. You know, it's a shame. So I really feel for creatives. I want these RDC people. I want them to get their own show on whatever Netflix or Hulu, wherever the hell, Comedy Central even. I want them to, but because of the way things are currently constructed, I just don't see it happening, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Stay independent, y'all. Y'all will make a classic. The streets will love it forever if y'all did it. So and reinvest some of that money that y'all out here grinding to get, and I'm sure it'll pay off, man.
Yeah. Go make your own studios. Yeah, go and create your own studios.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Shouts out to Mr. Phillips, man. Y'all good luck over there, man. In RDCWorld, bro.
You
and shouts out to all of the artists and creatives and comedians, man. I feel for y'all.
Stay 10 toes down, y'all. It ain't easy out here, man. It is not easy.